The recording, the meeting is being live streamed. And let's call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Sorry I missed the last meeting, but I'm glad to be here now. And we have a conflict of interest statement that's always listed in the agenda. I hope you've all had a chance to read it. We're not actually voting on anything today, so there shouldn't be any conflict of interest, but in any time that you feel there might be, please let us know. And I hope you all had a chance to look at the minutes of the last meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. Any corrections to the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed, please say no. And the minutes are approved. And then to approve the agenda for this meeting, may I have a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Lisa.
Liesl and Cameron, I think, seconded that.
I think I motioned it.
Oh, okay. Other way around.
I second.
All right. All in favor of approving the agenda for today, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say no. All right, so this is a public comment of our meeting, but I think we don't have anyone from the public. We're being live streamed, but is there anyone from the public who has a comment? Yeah.
There's no one in the room, and I think we're having some trouble with our public input piece, so I don't think anyone's online either.
That is correct.
All right, well, in that case, shall we turn it over to Michelle Pugliese from Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy for our deed review process update.
Thanks, Nancy. And I have just a few slides that I'm going to share because it's such a stunning piece of property. We've got to look at some photos. And so, yeah, this is a great time, and thanks for inviting me to come talk about deed review. We are very close to closing on this property. So this is the 324-acre tract that is just west of the center of West Asheville. That photo shows the opening. There's really two openings at the top of the mountain, both offering absolutely stunning long-range views. And the spine of the mountain is part of the property with both sides of the spine containing the slopes. So you can go to the next slide. So just some county staff, standing on top of the mountain. This is that opening and the scenic views looking to Asheville. So this property is one that locals have been hiking on for decades. The previous owner then decided that they wanted to sell the property, listed it for $10 million. We engaged with a conservation-minded buyer and lender to take the property off the market for us. And we entered into a 3-year option agreement to purchase the property. And we are nearing the end of that 3 years right now. And you can go to the next slide. I think I have like another picture and then some actual information. One of the fun features on the property is that there's this rope swing on the tree that everybody sits in. So just a beautiful place. Just
a little bit of a nice view.
So the goal for this is for this to be a Buncombe County park. And you can go to the next slide. So this contextual map shows the property location in red. So you can see how close it is to the city. This will be the largest county park by far that is easily accessible. It's actually very close to a public bus line. So it's easily accessible to people in the community without having to drive long distance. There is an existing network of trails on the property. Obviously, long-range views there's really nowhere else in Asheville that you can be in nature and get that specific view. There's 12 headwater tributaries that flow into all of those creeks listed. Smith Mill Creek is a impaired stream as designated by the state of North Carolina. That's one of the reasons why we were able to raise money from the North Carolina Land and Water Fund to protect it, is to protect and improve our impaired streams. So as I said, this will be a passive recreation county park. You can go to the next slide. And I apologize, I didn't have time to make an updated map with like nice aerial color, but this one shows the network of trails that are already on the property. One of the key things for this is that the funding is coming from two different sources, one of which is the North Carolina Land and Water Fund. A condition of receiving that money from the state is that you have to place a conservation easement over the entire undisturbed portion of the property. And then the other portion of the property, which is shaded in gray, oops, sorry, that's okay. Yeah, on the lower area that's shaded in gray, including that piece across Beaverview Road, is going to be in what's called a declaration of covenants and restrictions. And it's basically a more lenient document that's similar to a conservation easement, but this is the area where the majority of the park infrastructure is envisioned to go, including, you know, a storage and management facility, parking area. And so I've summarized the reserved rights allowed here, and I don't know how much time we have, so we probably don't need to get into the weeds on all of that. But the main point is it's a passive recreation park, so there's not going to be any ball fields on it or anything like that. You can do hiking, biking, environmental education, photography, stuff like that. You can have up to 2 parking areas. On the top, there's like little icons up there, and that's where a view area could be created to create a scenic view going in a different direction on another part of the property. So like another destination.
Does that really mean just clearing that area, like having a clearing where you could?
Limited clearing, yeah, limited tree clearing. You can have, in the conservation easement, there will be some improvements allowed, minor things, covered picnic facility, storage building for like, you know, park equipment. And then in the DCR is what we're calling the Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions, can have like a real bathroom, a park maintenance building, a play area for children, another picnic facility. Obviously, the conservation easement and DCR will allow for managing the natural resources on the property. There's a kind of a kudzu infestation close to the clearing, which has been actively managed for many years, and obviously we can continue to do that. SAHC will be responsible for monitoring the conservation easement. It's going to be held by the state of North Carolina, and SAHC will be monitoring. So we'll have a permanent relationship with the property moving forward, and required to visit it at least annually to do that monitoring. So the conservation easement is about 315 acres. The Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions area is about 27 acres. Was somebody going to ask a question?
Yes. Just so because I'm working issues out now, you're trying to understand all the different moving parts of government. This is actually a county park, and the land in the long term will be owned by the county. Is that?
Right. Yes, it's not a county park yet. It's still owned by the conservation buyer. And originally it was contemplated that SHC would purchase the land and then transfer it to the county. But because the funding is going to be available for the county to make a direct purchase, that's how the transaction is going to go now. So we're basically going to assign our option agreement to the county. The county will purchase it directly. And then it's going to be some time before it's going to be open to the public. So I think that's another important thing as people are asking everybody about what's going on with deed review. The big exciting news is that we hope to close next month. And by we, I mean Buncombe County, but I've been pretty much managing the due diligence and all the state grant administration. So the county's going to close on the acquisition next month. And at that time, also the conservation easement will be in place and the declaration of covenants and restrictions will be in place. And then the county's going to begin the process of seeking public input and doing engineering and planning and design for the future park. So it will not be open to the public until the county determines that it's ready.
Okay, I hope and urge that the county is fairly expeditious and does not follow the state on that. So that's something I think we as the LCAB should probably monitor, because Pisgah View State Park will open 5 to 10 years from when you ask the question. They're already almost 2 years behind the master plan, and it was issued 2 years ago. So I think we as an LCAB should urge our counterparts in Parks and Recreation to make sure the public's not asking 5 years from now when this is going to open. So I'll get off that. I'll get off that soapbox. It ought to be a lot easier than dealing with the state. You did say, though, the state holds the conservation easement. Which part of the state government is that? We're trying to put more land and conservation out here, and I'm trying to understand the different players.
Well, I mean, it's technically the state of North Carolina, operated through the Department of Cultural and Natural Resources, the DNCR.
Okay, so it's DNCR.
Is the Land and Water Fund sits underneath. And if you go to the next slide, the funding scenario, this is me and my dog Maya on one of the trails on deed review. But I just wanted to go over the funding. So like I mentioned, it was listed on the market for $10 million. The conservation buyer purchased it in 2023 for $7.4 million. So it's generating interest and holding costs. The purchase price to us and Buncombe County is just over $8 million. And I mentioned already the state grant. The other half of the funding comes from the Outdoor Recreation Landscape Partnership Program, the ORLP. And I'm sorry, I think that's legacy, not landscape. But that is operated through the National Park Service. And one of the requirements of the ORLP funding is that the park must be open to the public within a certain time frame. So while I'm worried about satisfying the requirements of the state grant, the county has been diligently focused on satisfying the requirements of the federal grant. And that requires things like public input and making sure that it is open in a timely manner. So that helps support what you were saying, Stag.
Yeah, we need something like that for state parks.
So those are all the slides I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. This has been an incredibly complicated technical project, as you can imagine. The amount of survey issues and title issues and everything that we've been able to resolve all of them. So it's really been a team effort. And yeah, Lisa, it looks like you have your hand up.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Thank you for sharing and for all the hard work. I'm curious, as a newbie to LCAB, what role, did any of the county funding support any of the due diligence pieces or anything like that? What role did this body play, or is this mostly for information?
That's a great question. So the funding plan for this really shifted over time. And in the beginning, we did approach Buncombe County for a $1 million grant from the Buncombe County Bond Funds. And so this Land Conservation Advisory Board did review this project, and the county commission did approve, and it was right before the hurricane hit. So the county commission,
And sorry, just to,
yeah,
it was the Passive Recreation Advisory Board, right?
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's the one, yeah, just want to make sure.
yeah. So it
It
wasn't
wasn't LCAP.
LCAB funds, it was bond funds through Passive Recreation. And it was presented to the county commissioners. They were poised to vote and approve on it right before the hurricane hit, and then things changed. And during that time, we were waiting for the federal money and the state money to be approved. When all of that was approved, then we basically released our request to the county. So on the acquisition side, the county was poised to provide $1 million towards the acquisition. On the park management side, the bond funds have already approved, I think, $7.5 million. And that's for developing the park infrastructure. And Allison knows a lot more about that than I do. But so the county is deeply invested in, in this as far as funding goes, once we're getting into the management and development stage.
And my understanding about this 7.5 is that request actually happened almost like very early days in the open space bond, almost before the passive recreation process was like honed in and finalized. So that request kind of went or came from commissioners after talking about the deed review process. So it didn't go through a standard process like most of the bond requests have been required to do. It went straight from commissioners as a priority, and then they went ahead, as well as it was with Ferry Road project as well. Those two got funded kind of outside of the standard bond process to make sure that there was funding put aside for park infrastructure.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Patrick, it looks like you're patiently waiting.
Yeah, hey, this is great, Michelle. Thanks for laying this out. My question is just trying to understand the connection between the 2023 transaction and the upcoming transaction in March.
Yes.
So I think my question is, in 2023, did the conservation buyer buy the property in fee, or did they negotiate for an option that will then be resolved in March? What's the connection there?
Yeah, the conservation buyers who created an LLC called Deed Review Mountain LLC, they own the property in fee right now, and so, but they said they want to recover the funds that they've invested in it. So basically, they said if we are not able to purchase property in 3 years, then they created sort of a limited development plan so that they could recover their investment. So even we work with these people regularly. They're very conservation minded, and we asked them to buy this property. So they needed to have a plan in case we were not able to come up with $8 million to buy the property. So that's where it is right now. They own it in fee simple. Buncombe County is going to purchase it in fee simple. Then at that same time, the conservation easement and DCR will be recorded, and then SHC will be the monitor, state will hold the easement, county will own the land.
So that was one question I was wanting you to go through, was like that process of how does it all happen at closing, the purchase, the recording of the it just all happens at the same closing.
It's simultaneous.
Yeah.
And that option is going to be assigned to Buncombe County. It's probably going to be like another simultaneous document that's like, this is recorded in line.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stag and then Nancy.
Just thank you very much for the leadership on this. How many miles of horse trail will be on it? You don't have to answer.
I actually, I believe that horses are not permitted by the conservation easement.
That's why we have to get Pisgah View State Park open.
Okay.
Nancy?
Actually, horses were not even in the Buncombe County recreation plan is mentioned at all. So the master plan for the entire county.
All right, my question is that 7.5 million, back to that. So from the bond funds that was allocated, is that going to stay? I mean, Michelle mentioned that it's going to be used by the county for setting up the park as a park, but I thought that 7.5 was for the acquisition, and that since the grants were here, we didn't actually need that. And I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that.
Yeah, it was a little bit like cart before the horse, but also just sort of investing and making sure that the county had money to manage the property. So yeah, the 7.5 million is not for acquisition.
But it might have initially been 4 or no?
No,
Never.
it was never
Okay.
contemplated for that, as far as I know.
Is there just a
And I was
coincidence?
not- What's that?
Sorry, it just sounds like coincidentally it was the same amount. Is that accurate? That the
Yes,
amount?
yeah, and I.
So there are
and it
two
might be like
7.5 millions.
Yeah, it was purchased for 7.4 million by the current owners, and it's it might even be 7.6 million. I can't remember the exact number that the county has allocated for park management, and that's going to be used for like improving the road, which right now is sort of a steep gravel road that is then turns to soil and is really rough. And creating a parking area, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding
It's going to be
from
used
Parks
pretty
and
quickly.
Rec is that to maintain and establish a park of this size, like that 7.4 is not. It's gonna be a good start, but there's gonna be a lot more funding needed to get it up to the dream that we all have it, to be.
Yeah.
And
there are other grants that are going to be available.
Exactly. Yeah. There's plans and how to make, add funds to the project. But yeah, I can also so I reached out to Parks and Rec, and let them know we were talking about it here on the board today. They weren't able to join, but I have some information that they shared. So I'm happy to share that specifically about like park improvements and where that is. I can do that once, the other questions have been answered, if that's handy. David, do you want to?
Sure. I was a little late, but I might have missed this. Was there damage from Helene?
There were at least 2 landslides on the property. One of the trails had a lot of downed trees along the eastern slope. The western slope, the last time I was out there, seemed pretty good. So yeah, there was definitely some damage. But if you go to the top overlook area, you wouldn't know that there was any damage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a good question.
My second question.
One quick thing too. Another interesting thing is, I don't know if y'all remember, but maybe about like 2 years ago, there was a wildfire up on Spivey Mountain, just on the other, just adjacent to this property. And the fire department asked permission to use this property to access the wildfire, and they cut a fire break, which I think is maybe where one of the landslides occurred. But we did get a little bit of money in the Land and Water Fund grant to recover that slope where the fire break was installed. And that was on the eastern slope. But yeah,
All right, I have another question about the bus line. I know the bus line currently comes close, and there has been talk of extending it. Has there been any more talk of extending it all the way to the park?
I don't know. I'm not sure internally, like from county staff. I know, yeah, I think it would be a great extension. I think it's about 1/2 mile. So, but I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. I think that Allison or Joseph Guzman would probably.
I don't even know bus routes. Is that a county thing?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's city or county. That's a good point. But
We can ask.
yeah,
Let's see.
yeah, it would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll share what I have from the Buncombe County Parks and Rec. So Buncombe County continues to make steady progress on the Beaverview Mountain project. As we move forward, finalizing the purchase of the property, hopefully happening in March, staff are preparing for the next major step, which the next step is selecting a professional planning and design team to help guide the future of the mountain park. So once the purchase is complete, the county will release a request for qualifications, or an RFQ, and then that has to go through a formal RFQ process that's required by local governments. So we go through that process in order to identify highly qualified firms based on their experience, technical expertise, and the understanding of a project's goals. So unlike a standard bid process that focuses on a cost alone, the RFQ process allows the county to evaluate a team's past work, approach, ability to deliver, a high quality planning service. So that's a good thing. It's not, we're not necessarily bound by the cost alone. So at that point, interested firms submit their qualifications, and then those kind of proposals will be reviewed and selected by a committee before that firm is chosen to move forward. So once that selected team, once that team is selected, the county, Buncombe County community members and stakeholders will meet to develop a master plan for Beaverview. So that, will kind of create that larger park plan. That plan will, and the point, this is not part of their spiel, but the point of that is so that we can make sure it serves the community with what the community needs in terms of the park. So we want to make sure we're getting community member input. So this plan will establish a long-term vision for the site. It'll identify appropriate access, trails, amenities, and conservation strategies. So through the process, protecting the mountain's natural resources will always remain a top priority. So there's no concerns there. We know that that's always been a priority, and once the easement's on there, obviously it's required priority.
Okay.
So that master planning effort will follow established conservation guidelines to ensure any future use balances public access with the environmental stewardship of the property, so that we preserve the mountain's ecological value for generations to come. So county is looking forward to sharing more updates as the project advances, but that's really that first step, doing this RFQ, reviewing those that submit proposals, and then selecting a team, and then doing this master plan, so that the master plan can then be used to apply for other funds to then leverage that 7.5-ish to finish out the project. So we know it's a commissioner priority, it's a community priority, and it's a priority for the Parks Department for sure. Just another note, parks were truly devastated after Helene. So the Parks Department is also dealing with a lot of park recovery. Owen Park was completely destroyed, as well as a lot of our river parks. So that's just something I try to keep in mind. Like, absolutely, Beaverview is a high priority, and also the Parks Department is dealing with a lot of other stuff at the same time. So try to have some patience for them.
Mm-hmm. Stagg, you have a question?
Yes. This is sort of getting to my concern about making sure this gets open promptly. The state will only build to state standards for trails, for example. So any trail that has any extended gradient greater than 10%, the whole trail has to be redone. And that can literally be millions of dollars on steep slope property. So many of the trails at Pisgah View State Park that were perfectly adequate for people to hike on for 50 years are no longer meet the state standards. Apparently, state standards are much more rigorous than even the national park standards. Another example that's adding cost to the state park. So right now it looks like it's going to come in 10 or $20 million over budget. Is any septic system has to be built to commercial standards. And that takes this cost of the septic from 20,000 up to 200,000 or something. Is our county standards for parks much more reasonable? Like if people have been hiking on these trails for years, that should be basically good enough, other than getting rid of obviously, you know, drainage problems and all that.
That is a good question. I don't think I can answer it fully, but I do know that the county has to, there's all kinds of liability around opening a piece of, wild mountain land up to the public, and, having roads, steep roads and that type of thing on properties where we're saying public can visit. So my understanding is that, yes, the county does have to follow whatever those best management, guidelines are for installing properties. So there could be a phased opening approach. I'm assuming certain areas are open and maybe certain areas aren't, but I am definitely not the point person on that, but we can share it.
Yeah, and I should say that, that's not really our purview, but I would just like to maybe, however it's done, Nancy or somebody formally express the fact that we would like to make sure the county does expeditiously open this consistent with legal restrictions or whatever, because I'm discouraged about what I'm seeing about how the state works on getting properties open. And I think if that happens in the county, you end up with a lot of unhappy county citizens, and then we lose support in the long term for projects like this.
Yeah, and I think that at this stage we can relay, well, I guess as a LCAB board member, and a member of the public, you're welcome to share those, those thoughts and with others and with the Parks Department. One way I think you might have better success would be, and I'm just remembering that the 3 board members that recently left the board were the passive recreation subcommittee members that were from LCAP. So just as a reminder, we still need to kind of appoint or recommend 3 of the existing LCAP members to serve in that passive recreation subcommittee. So I think that is probably a good place to make, kind of more recommendations, of passive rec parks. So my understanding is, I don't know when that subcommittee will meet again, but there is anticipated like a next cycle of requests that might go out, like saying, hey, here's an open time to submit requests for passive rec because there's some bond funds left. So that could be something that we discuss, or you guys discuss as a board, of who would want to serve in that capacity. It was just a monthly meeting, and only for the months that you would need to go through that application review process, and then make a recommendation to the commissioners, and then at that point the board kind of goes into hibernation until you need to serve again. So yeah, I think that's a good spot for feedback.
And I will say that it's almost guaranteed that the trails are going to need some improvement.
Yes.
We can't, they were not designed to withstand the impact for the use that it will have as a public park. And we want to make sure that when they are used, that they're not going to, add to erosion and sedimentation of all the streams on the property.
Yeah.
So, we can't just use the existing network as is.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but there's reasonable, and then we're going to create, $1 million trails to and the state unfortunately seems to be in the latter, that most of the trails in the state park system today could not be built under the new standards.
So Stag, there's a difference between a state project and a county project.
Yeah, and that's what I was.
And so the things for the state don't really apply for the county. The county will say we want sustainably designed and built trails. And so that the whole trail system will be assessed by someone, and then they'll determine which trails are sustainably built and they can maintain those, and then they'll have to redesign new sections. So there's just standards and guidelines. There's basic best management practices or just best design practices for trails that I'm assuming that the county would follow. I will say that the county has done a lot of greenway projects, but this is a different project for them because of the amount of conservation and the amount of trails. And so that is something that they will probably be relying on the consultant team, whoever they hire, to help them guide them through that process. And just to give you a little perspective on timelines, because I know, Stag, you're pretty anxious to see Pisgah View State Park get going. If the county has money in hand, which they do, to pursue infrastructure, they'll do the master plan. The master plan typically for a project like this, and I don't know what the timeline is, I haven't seen anything, but from my perspective, for the work that we do, it could be a 6 to 12 month process for the master plan, depending on how much public engagement, how much stakeholder engagement. And then you probably need about a year, maybe not that much, for construction documents for the engineering. So I think best case scenario, I don't know what the time frame is either. I would love to hear when they have to have access, because they might need to focus on that gray area that was highlighted in the map first and get that open so they can get access. But it's going to take some time. But I think they're going to be able to move way faster than the state. And that's just my personal opinion on all that.
I agree that I think we should be thinking scale of years.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
And one question I did have, because this group could maybe weigh in, because this is a newer type of park with the amount of conservation. I know typically Parks and Rec departments can get money to plan and design parks, but the management of them and having funding for management is often very hard. And so I don't know if Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, if this group can make sure we're talking to the county that they do have funds allocated for long-term management to keep the natural systems intact and to address some of the issues that they're going to face with long-term control of invasives and other things that come up with more use of the facility. So I just wanted to plant that seed.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that is a great point. And I think was always one of the concerns on the county side is how, like, we can put money towards infrastructure all day, like not all day long, but we can put money towards infrastructure. But if we have, I'm thinking more on like Parks and Rec staff, to manage a property, whether it's the natural features or just patrolling and, keeping it open and making sure someone's there, being a park ranger, that is something we've always, the Parks Department has always been raising up as, wow, this is a fantastic project. We're super excited about it, but we need people power to, to actually make it a successful park. So I know that, that is something to continually raise, make sure that county puts folks behind it.
All right, that's a excellent update. Thank you very much, Michelle. And if no one has anything pressing, shall we move on to our other updates?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We start with Tom, Conserving Carolina.
Hi, everyone. Right now, Conserving Carolina, I'm working on renewing our application to North Carolina Land and Water Fund for a project that LCAB recommended funding for. That's the Duck Branch project across from the Light Center. Of course, we already have a Land and Water Fund grant for the Twin project on the other side of Highway 9 there in the Broad River Township for the Light Center. So we're feeling good about this. We see a way to generate a couple of extra points on this application. We just missed getting funded by 2 points, so we're good about renewing the application for the Duck Branch project owned by Brian and Barbara Cole there on Highway 9 that Nancy, you got this, other folks. Other news, March 20th, we're having our grand opening at Fairview Community Forest. Again, thanks to LCAB for your contribution to that great project. Just as a reminder, that involves funding from another project involves federal funding, funding from the U.S. Forest Service from their community forest program. We've matched it with funding from you folks and about 4 other foundations, plus the North Carolina Land and Water Fund. Now, as it sits today, Conserving Carolina, we borrowed money and we bought the entire acreage. So we own the former camp in the center. We call that the donut hole, and we own the donut, which is where the all outdoor recreational activities will occur. In that donut hole, just a reminder, that's where the education program run by our partner, Camp Career, that's where that will take place. They call that the Works Project. It's a great partnership with Buncombe County School System and Asheville City Schools. So that's March 20th. Nancy, you should have gotten an invitation, and Ariel. So we're looking forward to great things there. We've got a parking lot in now and 3 miles of trail that will be open to the public. That's my update. Thank you.
Anna, do you have an update from Riverlink?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I kind of want to share, we have kind of projects that are pending funding right now that are kind of exciting. So one, it's working with Renee, our water resources department. So she put in an application with the DEQ's flood blueprint program. And if that is accepted, we would acquire a property in Swannanoa, right on the river, about 5 acres, and it has really great flood resilience and outdoor recreation opportunities. So fingers crossed on that. Otherwise, we're about to put in 2 applications to NC Land and Water Fund for 2 separate stream restoration projects. One is on Nasty Branch in River Arts District, which if y'all are familiar with that, you can see it as it goes under Lyman Street and enters the French Broad right by what was Asheville Waste Paper. And that's been, devoid of vegetation, kind of concrete ditch. Like the stream has not been in good condition for a long time, hence its name, Nasty Branch. So we're really excited to move forward with a stream restoration there and actually see vegetation on Nasty Branch for the first time in a very, very long time, I'm sure. So fingers crossed on that one as well. And again, I know I mentioned this before, but of course the NC Land and Water Fund requires conservation easements. So that would be about an acre easement, we were told, if we get the funding for that. Then our second application is a stream restoration in upcoming Beacon Park in Swannanoa. If y'all aren't familiar, this is a really cool new kind of park coming with a bike track, bouldering area, trails, really cool recreational asset for Swannanoa, and they have a stream through their property, and they've been really great partner to work with around restoring their stream. So again, fingers crossed for funding on that as well. And then I'll also just share a quick update on our Gateway Park project. So as a reminder, this is a property that Riverlink owns on the corner of Pearson Bridge and Riverside Drive. It's about 1.2 acres. And we have funding, fully funded to build a park here, but we were in a holding pattern waiting for more information from NCDOT because they're widening Riverside Drive. We finally were approached by the acquisition company. So we kind of have the best information on what they're going to be taking from the park as we're going to get. So we're able now to move forward with Equinox on finalizing the design, including that aesthetic elements and things like that. So we're really excited to build a park in 2026.
Just a heads up to the boardroom. I muted you guys to stop that feedback, so you'll need to unmute to kind of get the meeting continued.
Great, thank you. And Jess, are you giving the SHC update today?
Sure. We don't really have much to talk about. Michelle went in depth on deed review, and we are still moving forward with due diligence on all our active Buncombe County projects, but no recent closings since our last meeting last month.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for our land conservation partners? All right, well then, moving on. Announcements. Do we have any announcements?
I have a few items to update on. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry,
so,
I forgot you. Sorry.
You're good. No worries. Alrighty. So just a few from the county side of things. We will be working with Tom Fonzo to get the 3 projects that LCAP approved last fall on the commissioner's agenda. We've been asked to kind of hold them back from commissioners meeting for a couple months, so that we're kind of batching projects a bit more. So on March 17th, we will be going with Tom to for the Duck Branch, the Light Center Nature Preserve, and the Light Center Farm, presenting those to the commissioners for funding. And then also at the same time, the Ag Advisory Board yesterday approved 2 new donation easements that the county's program that Martha and I oversee. It's about 95 acres in Fairview that we will be presenting at the same time. So we'll have 5 requests coming to the commissioners on March 17th, and we're doing that in conjunction with Ag Awareness Day, which is that day. So we're trying to show, land conservation and ag, how exciting. Okay, and then the other piece I just remind you about is I sent it out in email, but and today it worked fantastic. So we did our first kind of informational presentation with deed review, but the next few months we'll be doing that as well. So next month, Jess Lagus will come and do a bit of an easement 101 with the board. So she'll do a presentation and we'll have a good time to ask questions and learn more as we kind of bring in our new board members. And then April 15th, Martha and I will present the new LCAP grant process. So we've been working on updating a lot of the grant application materials to hopefully make it more streamlined. And so we'll be talking more about that. And then May 20th, we'll continue the conversation that we started last month about these land conservation kind of community events. I know David was interested in kind of starting one up in his area, but it would be a good time for us to all talk about, all right, where are the areas that are needed, and maybe plan a couple for this coming year. Martha and I reached out to the Foundation for Soil and Water and found out that there is some funding for hosting events, so potentially for refreshments, and if an event rental space is necessary, that's a potential too. So we know that process, and we're happy to help facilitate getting reimbursed for those kinds of costs. The one stipulation on that funding is that farmland preservation has to be talked about, and so we can do that. No big deal. And somebody from the Foundation of Soil and Water also would attend the event to be able to make it eligible. All that is easy peasy. So, and then June 17th, that following meeting would be when we start that new grant process and when applications are due. So we'll talk more about that. I just wanted to kind of relay that we got a plan for the next few months. We got some good topics, and I think by the time we get to that kind of grant cycle opening in June, we'll be in a really good place. So please let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, that is all I have.
Questions from David?
Yeah, I actually ran into Terry Wells and Hani from Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy this week, and talked to them both about trying to have a presentation like the one that y'all did with Stag helping from the Jupiter area, and they said, yeah, let's do it. So I guess. Ariel, can we talk offline, or would you prefer to wait until we have a conversation? Because it sounded like we might talk about it in one of these meetings. Because I think the big thing for me, if there's farmers involved, I don't know if we'll be able to pull something together before their season really starts, and then, you know, making sure we're not doing it at a bad time for participants to actually attend the meeting. So
Yes.
yeah.
I think that those are all really great points. Yeah, so because I guess at this point, it's February.
Yeah.
So in the next month or two, like even if we tried to squish a meeting in short notice, people are going to be in planting windows. It's going to be kind of, you know, crazy. What we found in the past handful of years hosting the Friends of Ag events is that typically fall, like starting November, December, January, February, those are really some of the better times for hosting meetings and having best turnout because folks are just so swamped in the growing season. So that's a really good point. So we might already be too late to have one before fall, but would an April discussion still be okay to then get something on the books for October, November? Probably, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, David? Do you feel like you were hoping to do something sooner?
No, I mean, I didn't want to rush anything because the big thing for me is getting the word out, and that's one of the things that funding that you had mentioned. Can we use that for postcards and flyers to send to people? Because if we're going to do that, then just organizing all that could take some time and checking schedules for everyone. So I don't think there's a need to try to force it, but I'm okay if we start having the conversation sooner. But I just want to be sensitive to the fact that you're busy and you're working on other things, and so I would need some assistance from you on like how are we going to do this, and like I can develop a postcard, but can the county send these out, like stuff like that, like just some logistics.
Yes, absolutely. Good question about the funding around postcards and flyers. I will follow up and ask the foundation if that's a potential. I can't remember if they said that, but I'll follow up on that piece. I think for us, fall into winter, totally doable. And the earlier we kind of get things on the books, the better. Even if it's like, say we want to have 3 of these meetings, we do November, January, February, or you know, whatever, we can kind of get those. I feel like we got time starting this conversation now. So all of that sounds good to me. And I'm happy to talk offline too about it. Yeah.
Okay. So I like the idea. Let's target November, and then this way we have plenty of time to talk with all the folks that might be presenting, whether it's Hani or Michelle or Jess from Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, make sure it works for your schedule, Ariel, because I understand you also presented. So that would be great.
Perfect. That sounds good.
Stag?
Would not be Hani. Would be Hani now.
Stag, what's your question?
I just want to say, David, let's also talk offline that we kept our costs down by using lots of internet word of mouth and internet groups, and only did targeted mailing like 10 or 15 absentee landlords if we really wanted to think about it. And mainly, again, I want to thank Ariel and Hani for the great job they did. You know, it reported last time we had 75 people here, but importantly, it has led to at least 3 discussions. Well, 2 new discussions and furthering of a 3rd discussion of local landowners who have undeveloped land. So we're now looking at several hundred acres of potential discussions. Now, these discussions take, years to go from discussion to reality. But that's the real measure of success of these meetings is two things. One, getting much more community support for this, which I think we did. And two, those discussions getting initiated. So again, Ariel and Hani, thanks for kicking this off. And Dave, let's talk offline on how we publicized it and kept the cost low.
And I have a question also. I heard on the radio this morning that I did not go to the county commission meeting yesterday, but I heard they were talking about more steps forward for a potential land conservation bond.
Yes, that is.
Anything more about that?
My understanding is that commissioners had a budget retreat in January, and that's kind of when they started talking about it. Staff have been asked to give estimates on what we would potentially need in terms of land conservation dollars, like we did last time. So I've reached out to all the land trusts represented here today, asking for kind of how best can we estimate what we might need over the next 10 years. We were looking at how do we estimate what we would need to reach the new strategic plan goal, which is initiating 700 acres of conservation a year over the next 5 years. But as we know from the last time, the bond is supposed to be a 7-year with a potential for 3-year renewal. So we did estimates for 7 to 10 years. How much would we potentially need for 7 to 10 years? And so that is for land conservation that LCAB approves as well as Ag Advisory approves. My understanding is we've given that estimate, and I believe the county would go through a similar process as we did with the last bond, where they work with the Trust for Public Lands to do some polling and see how favorable it would be on the ballot. And then should the polling go well, then they would continue to explore the open space bond. So I think that that's kind of the next steps is, working with Trust for Public Lands to do that.
So if any of us see on our answering machines that the Trust for Public Lands is calling, we should answer that call. Does anyone have any other announcements or anything they want to discuss? All right, well, we had a 100% attendance meeting today, which is totally awesome. Thanks, everybody, and I hope to meet the rest of you in person sometime, but
we need to vote to adjourn. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I was just checking to see if there was anything else. If not, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye. And
Aye.
Zoom meeting.